1.
Hello, welcome to Meet Me at the Movies. I am Noel T. Manning II with you right here. We appreciate you spending time with us. And always, anytime I get a chance to hang out with Adam Long, my day is that much better. So Adam Long, welcome, buddy. Good to see you back on the show.
I'm glad to be back. You'll notice that my movies are not behind me as they normally are in my little makeshift office, as it were. I'm in transit. I am moving to a new home. So my sister loaned me the use of her home. So you'll see a makeshift curtain in the background. I'm going to go ahead and just be honest about that and transparent that I'm in the process of moving a lot of movies, but we'll get there, folks. We'll get there.
Well, we'll give a shout out to your sister. What's your sister's name? We'll give her special thanks.
Erin Long. That's my sister. We're close.
Special thank you to her for allowing that tie-dye curtain to be in our show today. So, yes. Man, we're going to be talking about a legendary figure, Gene Hackman, such an amazing legacy of film, the career. He's timeless. I think when I look at his work, Adam, I think there's complexity to it. There's human characters across multiple genres. And you think about his career, 6 different decades we saw him on screen in some form or fashion, 2 Academy Awards, and really multiple iconic performances. So I'm glad we're going to get a chance to talk about Gene Hackman, that legend. And we both got our list of some films we want to chat about. Before we dive into that, I'd love for you to tell me about your first memory of seeing Hackman on screen, either the big screen or the small screen.
Well, I must say it was the small screen, if memory serves me correct. And that would have probably been circa 1974 or 5, because, full confession, I was born in 1970, so, I'm getting up there. But the Poseidon Adventure, I think, debuted on ABC in late 1974, if I'm not mistaken. And it was one of those annual rituals, kind of like The Wizard of Oz back in the day before home video. You could ABC would run it in a 2.5-hour time slot, and or maybe it was a 3-hour time slot, because that's a pretty lengthy movie. It's like an hour and 55 minutes. So to get it all with all the commercials, it might have been close to. But I remember, if memory serves, it was 2.5-hour time slot, and just a fantastic performance. And I just really took note of him as the preacher who leads them all to. When the ship capsizes, he leads them to the bottom of the ship. Everything's topsy-turvy, and spoiler alert, he doesn't make it to the very end of the movie. He's not one of the survivors. And it's amazing because that was an era when, there was always an element of surprise. You were emotionally invested in these characters. That's what makes the original Poseidon Adventure so great, as opposed to the remake, because these were people that you really got to know over the span of 2 hours, and you really cared about them. And his portrayal of the reverend who was having a crisis of faith, as it were, because he couldn't figure out why would God put them all through this test. And I remember the scene is so powerful where Shelley Winters has a heart attack and dies trying to get something that will help the rest of them get to where they need to go. And she has a heart attack, and he's like, "Why did you take this woman? Why did you do it?" And he's just like shouting at the heavens, and he's like, "Why don't you take me?" And he's just like such a powerful. And he's just and he's arguing at the beginning of the movie. He's debating another minister about God's ways, and there's a whole. And so it just really a lot of intelligence. He was just such a commanding presence in the Poseidon Adventure, and so that was. And from there, I was off to the races where his career was concerned from there on. So.
Yeah, and Poseidon was one of those early ones for me, but as I looked back through the filmography, I realized the first time I watched him, saw anything with him on screen, was also an edited for TV. It was one of those movie of the weeks. So they would take these popular films and turn them into a movie of the week and show them on network TV. And this would have been about in the mid-'70s as well, because the film was Night Moves from 1975, and I'm not sure when it actually showed up on TV, but I just remember being drawn to it because with my grandmother, when I'd visit her, she would always watch these crime procedural dramas of the week, like Cannon, Mannix, McCloud, the Macmillan and Wife. I mean, all of those kinds of Mannix, all those kinds of shows. So I was kind of drawn to private eye and detective series, kind of that, also film noir action dramas. Those always spoke to me, Adam. And so when I went back, I'm like, yes, I remember watching Hackman in Night Moves. And I went back, I'm like, yeah, there was just something about him. He just really felt authentic within all of his roles. And I knew that there was something I liked about this actor. So Night Moves was really my first experience of seeing Hackman on either screen, for sure.
Yeah, what a terrific movie. That's a great one, directed by Arthur Penn, who made Bonnie and Clyde, and he's also in that.
Yes.
So to take it back around, they had a
Absolutely.
working relationship. Yeah, that's a
Absolutely.
terrific movie. Getting ready to come out in 4K from Criterion just in a month or two, just coincidentally.
There you go.
So,
well, let's dive into our list of kind of essential films, and we're probably not going to get to everything, but ones that we think everybody should see for some reason or another. And you've got some sleepers out there that maybe not be on everybody's radar.
Yeah, well, the first one I wanted to talk about was his first Oscar nomination, and so unfortunately, it's an unjustly forgotten film, and it was a big deal at the time because he was, like I said, nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I think personally he should have been nominated for Best Actor in this movie because he goes toe-to-toe with Melvin Douglas in the 1970 film directed by Gilbert Cates, I Never Sang for My Father. And if you've not seen this film and you've ever had a complicated relation with your father, you need to see this film because it's going to give you a lot of comfort and solace because you can identify with a lot of what he's dealing with here. His dad is developing dementia, and he realizes that something's got to be done, but his dad has really always been cold and emotionally distant, and there's he wants so badly to have a relationship with his father, and he's got a new he's recently divorced, but fairly newly divorced, but he's got a new love in his life, and he's trying to get her to be a part, to also get his father to accept the new person that's in his life, and it's just a lot going on. And there's a powerful scene where he's just yelling at him saying, "What do you want from me? I give you everything." It's like, and it's just an amazing performance. And don't let the fact that it was made in 1970 stop you because it's based on a play, I think. Trying to think who the playwright was, but
Broadway play had the same name for the Broadway play as well.
Right, but what a powerful movie, and it's 90 minutes, so it packs a punch and gets its job done really quickly. But please seek this out. It's recently been released on Blu-ray in a Gene Hackman box set that came out last year, but I think you can find it streaming. It was released by Columbia Pictures. Big deal, like I said, in late 1970, but could not recommend that one more. So
yeah, I Never Sang for My Father from 1970, and you nailed it. This movie's still relevant today, and it really has this honest portrayal of family dynamics. And Roger Ebert, I remember Roger Ebert really loved this performance for Hackman, and I went back and found that quote, and he said, Hackman's performance was quiet, but it was a searing presence on screen, and that was in the Chicago Sun-Times. Let me take a twist here and a turn. I'm going to talk about a film that is one that people do talk about, and this is called The Conversation from 1974. Hackman's character went by the name of Harry, and he was kind of this paranoid surveillance expert, and he was grasping with a moral dilemma. It was really, for me, a character study that was looking at Hackman's character. He was introverted, he was guilt-ridden, and he had this kind of detachment, and he was tested. Francis Ford Coppola actually directed this, and it was nominated for Best Picture, but it actually lost out to The Godfather Part 2. But again, this is one of those films that I really think was just kind of a haunting performance, and this particular performance later inspired a character that he played in Enemy of the State, so that would be a great double feature. And I'm going to talk about Enemy of the State shortly, but that's a film I want to recommend is The Conversation from 1974.
Don't blaspheme. That's an inside joke. His co-worker's played by the great John Cazale, and he's always taking the Lord's name in vain, as it were. And so Gene Hackman said, "Don't blaspheme."
Love it. I love it.
He has a moral code. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. What else on your list, or anything else you want to make sure you share about The Conversation?
Well, actually, The Conversation is a terrific film. I mean, it's a masterpiece. It really is. It's a masterful portrait of a man who's just so his life is so insulated, and he's just so focused, hyper focused on something that just basically just drives him to the brink of insanity. It's about obsession, and it's just a really terrific film. And it's even more amazing that Francis Ford Coppola made it in between Godfather 1 and 2. I mean, gosh, that guy was on a roll. So the fact that he could squeeze in another one, and it was also nominated for Best Picture the same year as Godfather Part 2. The fact that he had two films in the running for Best Picture of the year, that is amazing when you think about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
what else on your list, buddy?
Well, Scarecrow would be my next one. It's another one from that era. Gene Hackman was prone to take a lot of. He caught a little flack for after he won the Oscar for the French Connection, which again a well-deserved Oscar for that, directed by William Friedkin in 1971. And he was taking a lot of more commercial films, because he was a Depression era guy. He didn't have a lot of money. A lot of years he struggled. He didn't get his career going until he was in his 40s. And basically, he was kind of taking everything that was thrown at him. And The Poseidon Adventure was a commercial film that he caught some flack for. It's like, but it was a great film in spite of that. But Scarecrow was kind of a return to the more smaller films. It was made in 1973. It's he and Al Pacino, directed by Jerry Schatzberg. And it's a simple story. I just saw it in the theater last year. They ran it over at the Independent Picture House, which is a local independent cinema that's in our neck of the woods. And so I was able to see it I'd seen it at home, but I'd never seen it in a theater. And the place was very well attended for that screening, and everybody loved it that saw it. It's about two guys. They're both drifters, Al Pacino and Gene Hackman, and they meet each other on the road, and they come up with this dream to open up a car wash. And it's about their misadventures as they hit the road, and it's incredibly well shot by Vilmos Zsigmond, who was the cinematographer for a lot of Brian De Palma's films, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So many great films Vilmos Zsigmond shot, and this is another one of those. It's filmed in widescreen, so you got to see it in its proper aspect ratio. But it's just, and Hackman and Pacino are just fantastic. They make a great a duo in this film, and it kind of takes a tragic turn towards the end of the film. I won't say exactly what happens, but just a beautiful portrait of these two men with a dream who come from different walks of life with this simple dream to open a car wash and all that happens therein and in between. So seek out Scarecrow if you get a chance.
Scarecrow from 1973 also won the grand prize there at the Cannes Film Festival as well. I really think, Adam, this is one of those kind of overlooked films, but when you look back at Hackman's performance, I think it's incredibly human. It's a very poignant performance. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, that chemistry with Pacino was really, really solid. So I think this is one of those masterpieces of the 70s when you're looking at American cinema that more people need to dive into for sure. Really deep emotion, as you mentioned, with this particular film. Yeah. Well, Noel T. Manning II here hanging out with Adam Long, and you are watching Meet Me at the Movies, and we are talking about the legendary Gene Hackman and more of our must-see films, or films that speak to us regarding Hackman, right after this quick intermission on Meet Me at the Movies.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Hi, I'm Nikki Bliss Carroll, your host for Cleveland Connections, the show that explores what's happening at Cleveland Community College. Join us as we sit down with members of faculty and staff to discuss programs of study, upcoming events, and other exciting campus news. We'll have a new show for you each month on C19 TV, or you can stream us online at C19.tv. Tune in and connect with Cleveland Community College on Cleveland Connections.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Hello, welcome back to Meet Me at the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here, hanging out with Adam Long, and we are talking about the legendary Gene Hackman and some films that speak to us for one reason or another. And before the break, I got a chance to mention one of mine, which was a conversation. And I said it would make a great double feature with this film from 1998 called Enemy of the State. And in this particular film, Hackman stars as Edward Lyle, who is a former intelligence agent who turns into this kind of hermit. He's a recluse, and he just doesn't really want anything to do with the world around him. And he's paranoid, but yet he's this brilliant, former NSA operative. I'll get it out. And he helps Will Smith's character evade government surveillance. And I really think, Adam, for me, this role was kind of a spiritual successor to his role in The Conversation. I thought it brought Hackman's career kind of full circle. When you see this, there was within this, you see Hackman having this kind of weariness and distrust for anybody, and it made him really a fascinating character. And to me, it added to kind of this film's conspiracy and the themes relating to that. Director Tony Scott pulled this together, and he deliberately wanted Hackman's character to kind of resemble that role that Hackman had in The Conversation. And so Hackman and Smith, both of them on screen. We talked about the chemistry before the break of Pacino and Hackman. And I think Will Smith and Gene Hackman's chemistry was really solid. And there were some incredible dialogue exchanges in this film that were kind of improvised. And I think you get a sense for just how talented both of those actors are, that they could do that together. And I think that also added to the film's kind of natural tension. A couple of thoughts from the past when LA Times released their thoughts on this film. They said that Hackman was the film's secret weapon, bringing weight and credibility to a high-stakes thriller. That was from the LA Times. And it also, for me, I think it helped introduce Hackman to a new generation of audience, and I think it still proved that Hackman can command the screen even as late as the 1990s. It is still, to me, the film Enemy of the State, still relevant. The themes of government and government surveillance and personal privacy, do those things even matter? It's even more relevant today. So I wanted to make sure I shared my thoughts there with Hackman and Enemy of the State.
Yeah, very good. I'm glad you did. That is a good one. Tony Scott, he was a director that Hackman worked with more than once, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But just wanted to talk a little bit about, just very briefly, about, of course, Superman the movie. We can't overlook Superman the movie and his portrayal of first big screen portrayal of Lex Luthor, maybe in a film. I don't know I know they did some Superman films back in the 40s, but I don't think Lex Luthor was a villain there. But that film contains probably one of my single favorite exchanges of dialogue in any movie ever. And it's when his assistant, played by Ned Beatty, Otis, and he says, Otis, it's amazing that some people can read War and Peace and come away with a simple adventure story, and some people can read the ingredients of a bubblegum wrapper and come away with the secrets of the universe. It's the way he says it. It's just fantastic. His intonation, I guess you would say, but nobody could make that dialogue sing like him. So it's amazing. And of course he did, Whose Years as the 80s went on. That's a movie everybody loves. That's another one. He had no faith in the movie. Apparently, he grumbled and griped the whole time they were making it. He goes, nobody's ever going to see this, and blah, blah, blah. I don't know why I did this. And then later on, he did a mea culpa, and he said, well, I guess I was wrong. And so he admitted that. But apparently he was pretty much a terror on the set of the Who's Years while they were making it. The director has come clean in years past, and he's like, yeah, it was not an easy shoot. But he apologized later and admitted that he was wrong. And, it's all's well that ends well, as they say. So, but he could do tender movies with a tender bend as well. Twice in a Lifetime is a movie he made in the mid-'80s where he has an affair with, I believe it's Anne Margaret. And I forget who his first wife is in the film, but he has an affair with Anne Margaret, who's a bartender. I believe she's the one he's having the affair with. But it's a really nice movie, too, where he's playing like a romantic lead, which you didn't see too much. But yeah, The Crimson Tide, I'll hurry up and get to it, is directed by Tony Scott. That also is another collaboration, and that's him going toe-to-toe with one of our greatest modern actors that we know now, Denzel Washington. And it's just amazing piece of work where two men who are in control of a submarine, he's second in command, and Gene Hackman is first in command, Denzel's second in command, and they basically get a message that's intercepted that basically they can't determine whether they're supposed to launch a nuclear missile or not. And Gene Hackman says they should. Denzel says they shouldn't. And so they come to loggerheads over that. And he throws Gene Hackman throws him in the brig. And then Denzel has a mutiny and he throws Gene Hackman in the brig. And it's an amazing battle of wills. And I love the film so much. It has some uncredited dialogue polishes by Quentin Tarantino. Yeah, and so there's that, and that's nice. And it also has James Gandolfini in it. George Zunza is in it, and it's a really good supporting cast. And the film is one of the beauties of the film for me is the fact that it doesn't. And a great score by Hans Zimmer. Let's not forget that. But one of the beauties of that film for me is the fact that it doesn't take sides. It never shows whether it's Gene Hackman who's right or Denzel who's right. It gives you the information. Lets the audience decide what they think. It's just a great submarine thriller. It's just a great action movie in any way you slice it, with two great performances by two fantastic actors going toe-to-toe. Crimson Tide, please see that if you haven't. And Unforgiven is another one. I'll just briefly touch on that. We all know you may be getting ready to talk about that, but anyway, yeah. I didn't want to miss that.
Yeah, I'll make sure I mention that, but I do want to say, as we mentioned with Tony Scott's film previously, Enemy of the State, also in Crimson Tide, there were moments that Denzel and Hackman had a kind of a loose script, but they were allowed to kind of improvise those scenes, knowing what the end game was, and it proved so perfect on screen. Unforgiven from '92, definitely on my list. Little Bill Daggett, ruthless, complex sheriff is what we see Hackman playing. Unlike typical Western villains, this lawman kind of has a twisted sense of justice. He's a brutal enforcer, and yet he's a hero in his own story. The final confrontation between Clint Eastwood and this character, really an unforgettable showdown. Hackman initially turned down the role because he thought it was too violent, but Eastwood convinced him to take it. The film did win 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Eastwood. And Hackman, of course, got his second Oscar, this time for Best Supporting Actor. The Hollywood Reporter called this one of the most, here's their quote, one of the best antagonists in Western film history. I think this helped kind of redefine the Western genre of that time, because it showed lawmen as kind of these deeply flawed and sometimes worse than the outlaws they hunt. And I think that was something that this film helped to show. And Hackman's performance here, I think really cited as a major reason that this film was so successful and why it continues to have this lasting impact.
Yeah, you sum it up well. I mean, it is a terrific one. And my son is a huge fan of this movie. When I passed on he had heard the story, the unfortunate news of Gene Hackman's passing, and he said, "Well, Dad, I guess I'm going to be watching Unforgiven tonight." Yeah, and I said, "Yeah, it's great, not just for the generation that you and I grew up in, but the generation that's coming up. They're appreciating this film as well. So it's standing the test of time."
Well, let me just throw out a few out there that I think people should check out. Young Frankenstein, just for checking out the blind hermit who wants to unwittingly torment a monster. Hackman's comedic turn here was just wonderful. It wasn't a huge role for him, but it was one that stands out. Mel Brooks really did a nice job with that. French Connection, of course, from 1971, one that people should watch. And then Bonnie and Clyde, which you had mentioned earlier in the show, from 67. And then, of course, Mississippi Burning from 88. Those are just some that I wanted to mention that people should check out if they get a chance.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought all those up. Those were some that were on the tip of my tongue, and I just was having a senior moment there. But yeah, those are all fantastic fantastic performances. I mean, it's really kind of sad. It was sad to hear of his passing, obviously. But, I think I had been mourning that loss for a long time because, once he retired from the screen, that was a loss that I had been mourning for about 20 years. So, his passing was kind of an unfortunate footnote to some sad feelings I'd already had because I didn't think we were ever going to get and win. As it turned out, we didn't. And he went out, and, I hate that he went out on Welcome to Mooseport, which of all the films he could have ended his career on, I think he maybe should have chosen something besides that, but whatever. It was his life and his career, so he chose to. He did it his way, as they said. So
yeah, well, you think about his awards and his recognitions. He got 2 Oscars, 5 nominations for Oscars over the course of his career. He got Golden Globe wins, 2 of those for The French Connection and The Unforgiven, and also had a nomination for Mississippi Burning. For a Golden Globe, and then for BAFTA, he also got a French Connection win from the British Academy Awards, and 2 nominations, 2 additional nominations from BAFTAs as well for The Conversation and Mississippi Burning. So, yeah, just you look at that career, it's just amazing. I think he really remains really an incredibly influential filmmaker, worthy of study, worthy of revisiting, and I'm just so thankful that we get a chance today to celebrate the life and legacy and the films of Gene Hackman, a movie star, an actor, and one that is an every man's actor for sure. 30 seconds. Any final thoughts or comments, Adam? You want to make sure you share?
Well, just any of the films that we have mentioned, I would say people need to seek them out. If you're not familiar with Gene Hackman's work, I mean, he never hit a false note. He never, he brought his A game to every movie, even though some of the scripts were lesser than his talents. He always brought his A game to the project, and so that is something that we don't necessarily see as much these days. Not like we did. And the character and the kind of actor, right quick, that he came from the background of people who actually had lived a life before they became, he had done odd jobs and had been out there. A lot of people who are in today's generation of actors, they haven't lived that life, and it shows. So.
Celebrating Gene Hackman right here on Meet Me at the Movies. Adam Long, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you, buddy. Always good to see you. I always love your insight, your thoughts, and just your friendship. And for everyone who spends time out of their day to watch us, we thank you as well. So for the entire cast and crew and for Adam Long, I'm Noel T. Manning II for Meet Me at the Movies. And for this week, that is a wrap.
Where are you going? I was going to make espresso.
Many films to view until we meet again. Next time we see you, we'll gladly fill you in. We'll tell about the happy and the sad ones. We'll talk about the good ones and the bad ones. Many films to view till we meet again.